welcome to Stages of Faith. Tonight we are talking with Lynn David Walker. He's an intuitive life coach, and he is stepping onto the stage tonight to share his journey of faith with us. And Lynn, just to begin with what you talked about, forgiveness. Talk to us about how you really got a testimony, if you will, of forgiveness and how that has really shaped you, and also how it's led you a lot in your career, as you have shared with me previous to this.
So I got married at the ripe old age of 30 to Kelly, who I'm still married to now. And we had a rocky first year. We started fighting a lot, and the marriage wasn't working. I think we were both maybe regretting our decision, thinking, oh man, what have we done? And it just came to me once that it was up to me. I had the power to control how the marriage went. And I thought we're being way too snippy to each other. And so I thought, I'm just not going to fight anymore. And if she says something that makes me mad, it's just going to wash off my back. And so we'd gotten in the habit that we picked fights with each other. And so she would say something kind of snippy to me, and I would just say, okay. And I wouldn't fight with her. And
that's hard to do. That's awesome. That's really hard to do.
Especially when you're in the habit of being, feisty. But
we just get into patterns, don't we? And we just listen to those patterns and react to those patterns. And it's hard to get out of.
But it was fun though, because it was kind of, in a way, that was fighting with her, because it was finding a way to kind of thwart her. So, it was fun.
More of a passive kind of a approach to it.
I didn't mean it that way. I meant it. We need to do a better relationship. But there was a little bit of satisfaction there in not engaging. And I don't remember how much time went by. Maybe it was a couple weeks. And she said, "You've changed. You don't fight with me anymore." And I said, "Oh no, I decided not to." And she goes, "Oh wow. Everything's been better since you decided that. Okay, I'm not going to fight with you anymore either."
That's amazing. So she had her aha after you had your aha moment, and just said, "This isn't working, and one of us needs to change." And then the other one came on board.
Yeah, she figured it out. She's a good person.
Oh, she absolutely is. I do know your wife very well. She's awesome.
So that, and you can only do that if you forgive someone. Forgiveness is so deep. There's so many aspects. It goes back. We've got issues with our family growing up, with our spouse, siblings. I mean, everybody does. And we have issues with ourselves, and it's all important. Some of us even, have issues with God. We think God has been unfair to us. Even if we're devout and pray and go to church, it's still possible to have some resentment for God, because none of our lives have gone the way we felt like we deserved.
That's right. And they say that forgiveness is not about, too often we think it's about saying, that's okay what you did. I will forgive it because it's okay. And even we're taught to just say, if somebody says they're sorry, tell them that's okay. And that's not really what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is a negative vibration, something in you, in your soul, that you don't want to there's something poison inside of you don't want. And you're basically just saying, I'm not going to hold this in my space anymore. And when we think of it like that, which is, I'm assuming what you did, you just said, I'm not holding a space for this contention. Okay. And you kind of set it to the side. It made you just feel better, function better. And after a while, it didn't feel like it was a match anymore. It sounds like, for that contention to show up.
I like the poison metaphor a lot. Forgiveness is not a gift you give someone else. It's a gift you give yourself, because it doesn't matter what someone did to you. If you're holding the anger, the negative emotions inside, you're holding poison inside. You're hurting yourself.
And that's just like, we're magnets, we just attract more of the negative, more of the positive we have, it'll come back to us, and more of the negative will also come back to us. So important to be mindful of that. And then, so you mentioned, just in us talking previous to recording today, that faith was forgiveness was a huge part of developing your faith and realizing, there's a higher power that helps us to get through things, have these aha moments, improve our relationships. But you have actually really come to a very personal way of communicating with the Spirit and having your own relationship with God outside of what a lot of us consider to be the to-do list, the checklist to our religions or our upbringing, where we just go, well, I did this, 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 and this. And talk to us a little bit about how you have made that personal. I mean, you're obviously somebody who can take some really deep insight and listen to the Spirit and say, outsmart certain situations that a lot of people trip over, like this whole, getting on each other's nerves and forgiveness. But talk to us a little bit about how you have made that personal to you instead of just maybe a checklist. And did you ever go by the checklist, or has it always just been a development of faith?
Oh, I went by the checklist for decades.
Yeah,
absolutely. So my parents, my mom is still alive, but when my dad was still alive, my parents were very devout, very conformist, absolutely did not believe in breaking any of the rules and just doing everything right.
We call that letter of the law, right?
Yes, very letter of the law.
Mm-hmm.
And I was expected and brought up to go, and that I would serve a 2-year mission through the church. People sometimes say I served a mission for my church, but the truth is I served a mission for my Savior.
Yeah,
that's why I did. I felt it was the right thing to do. But I did have a lot of pressure to go serve, which I did not appreciate, because that made it kind of ugly, actually, that I was expected to, rather than it being entirely my choice. But one of the things my dad said to me, and I think he must have said it more than once because it really made an impression, is he said, if you fail at your mission, you'll fail at life. And that's kind of dark. And one of my friends,
that cuts deep. Yeah,
one of my friends that he was a year older than me. He lived in my neighborhood. We used to go swim in his dad's pool. He left on a mission. He was in the MTC, and he had mental problems. He found himself like wandering on the grass and didn't know how he got there in the middle of the night. And he just couldn't do it mentally. And he came home. He did not serve the rest of his mission. He was out. And this guy married a lovely girl and lived a good life, and he did not become a failure at life.
Right.
And I realized my dad believed that. He believed that if you failed at your mission, you would fail at life. But there is not one event that can define the rest of your life like that.
Absolutely. And doesn't it go back to forgiveness? Even if we make mistakes, God lets us get back up, and he says, I'm not going to hold on to that. Let's go, buddy. Yeah.
Everything goes back to forgiveness. It's and mindset, for that matter. And so I think it was around then that I began to realize that my parents gave me a very detailed framework for how to worship correctly, how I should have my relationship with my Heavenly Father. A lot of that was built on the official direction of the church. And I learned I needed to use my judgment.
That's right.
And
your connection to the Spirit, because everybody's journey is so individual, and it's not meant to all look the same. We're all supposed to bring a different piece. So it's just so important that we do find that individual connection, as you're saying. Yeah. So, so here you are on your mission, and you see this fellow go home. He goes on to have a good life. You did stay in your mission. You have also had a good life. I think that what we're seeing a lot in the world, just in all platforms, religious or otherwise, is people trying to find that true voice inside of them that is telling them their sole purpose, their mission. And that there's all the checklists that we might have all agreed with. I'm a product of the 70s, 80s, 90s. This checklist we all kind of sort of agreed with here in America as a country. We said, okay, most of us believe this thing, and we fit inside of that pretty well. That checklist has been just kind of thrown to the wayside. And we're finding that we need true testimony, true faith, true self-identity, a true connection to God, where we can, move forward and make decisions in our life that sometimes really don't fit in the box, even myself. And yet, what are we going to do if we don't listen to that? Talk to us, Lynn, about the dangers you've seen, maybe some examples in your life or even in your own time where you did not listen to the voice inside your head. You were just trying to conform or stay inside that, and how that has come back to kind of bite you. Can you think of some times?
Okay. Give me a second here.
Sure.
I did not listen to voices in my head and tried to conform. So I had a friend, and we went on our missions at the same time. Mm-hmm. And shortly after we served our missions, he got married in the temple pretty quickly, and then decided that he graduated from the church. And he read a lot of critical literature, and I was very defender of the faith at the time. And he brought out a lot of criticisms, and most of them I just really believed were bunk. And so I could honestly argue against them. Well, all of them I thought were bunk, but there was one that in hindsight, in my heart, it was a valid point, and in my head, and it's even the church itself has kind of changed on this particular issue, but I didn't acknowledge it. I argued against it. I tried to come up with arguments for how it was true because I felt like that was the right thing to do. Right. And in hindsight, I wish I'd simply said, you're right. That is a really problematic thing. It does not outweigh the things that I believe in, all of these other things, A, B, C, and D. Mm-hmm. And talked about Jesus and revelation and God, all of these things that I believe in. But by defending something that I didn't know in my heart was true and don't believe now was a true principle, I betrayed myself. Mm. And I think I watered down the effectiveness I had with him because he knew. He could tell.
Yeah. I love what you said there. You said you wish you could go back and just validate that piece that he was bringing. This is a part that really bothered him, whatever that may be. And we don't even have to go into specifics because I feel like as these days, there's a lot of us who go, does that fit right? Does that fit right? And I love that you just said it doesn't outweigh the things that I do know to be true. There were things, but you also just wish that I feel like you wished you could have been connected to him more empathetically, more on a spiritual level, instead of just going from that recording that we have in our head so often of just like, well, when somebody says this is what you say. When somebody says that, this is what you say. Somebody does this, you try to make them do that. And we're always just trying to like pull and tug of war and everything. And we don't sit with people sometimes. We don't mourn with those that mourn sometimes. We don't just feel what they're feeling. And I'm a big believer that you have to feel it to heal it. And you also have to see to validate. And so we listen, we observe, we look at it as what is going on with them. And then we can say what maybe you wished you had said, which was like, I can see how that bothers you. I can see how that doesn't seem like that's the right thing. It doesn't outweigh what I do know. I think that's a very powerful testimony, Lynn. And of course, hindsight is 20/20, but we get to move forward. And I think that's amazing. Another thing you talked about with me, Lynn, was that you believe that we have a divine path and that it's important, it's crucial that we follow that divine path that God has set out for us. You have followed a divine path in being an intuitive life coach and helping people. But your day job, you're actually is it a graphic designer?
It is graphic designer.
Yeah, which you're amazing at. You've won awards at this in the past, right? I think you've shared that with me in the past. And it's fulfilling in its own right. But there's this other part of you that you felt you wanted to pursue in intuitive life coaching. Talk to us about how, because listening to the spirit, being guided, knowing your path, and all of these things, talk to us how that led you into intuitive life coaching. How did you know you wanted to do that?
Oh, absolutely. And it took a long time. And I have to tell a little bit of my wife's story. And she talks about this fairly often,
Mm-hmm.
if you know my wife. But she was suffering from depression. She'd lost her job and her way, and was becoming really tough to deal with. And she went to a personal development seminar, and she loved it. And she got invited to another one by one of the attendees there. And she went to it, and it lit her up. It gave her a hope, a positivity, an optimism that I hadn't seen from her for a really long time. And so I really wanted to encourage this. So I went with her. She asked me to, and I enjoyed them. They were fine. And she started to do some of the spin-off events. And there was a speaking event that we went to together. And I was just very happy to be the guy in the audience, had no aspirations to be on the stage. It just hadn't occurred to me. Now, I will say on my mission, I went to a place that had lots of congregations. One of the places I was stationed had like 36 congregations, all of them issuing invitations to speak. So I spoke a few times every week for 2 years. So I had a lot of public speaking experience. I'd taken a speech class in college, and I was very comfortable speaking, but I didn't see that I needed to speak. That was something that was lighting up Kelly. I was excited about that. And we were at this speaker training event, and I was a little bit bored. So I just started raising my hand. A lot of people, the person leading the event could be a little bit scary. She could, call you
a little intimidating there.
Stage, you got grilled.
Okay.
So
all right.
It took a little bit of bravery, but I didn't care how I did. I was.
You weren't risking anything by being there, right? That wasn't your show. It was almost the perfect way to do it
for my wife.
Yeah.
And so we spend the Saturday at this event, and I think we had a babysitter that had to leave early. So as the event was winding down, we excused ourselves and we said we have to go because of the babysitter issue. And that woman I was talking about said, "Oh, I need to talk to you before you go." So one of her coworkers, she turned the mic over to, and he led the group. And she said, "Lynn, you're a natural at this, right?" And I'm like, it's not really my thing. And she said, "Yes, it is. It is your thing. You are a natural speaker." And I said, "Well, I don't really like it that much." And she said, "That is not true. I know it's not true because whenever you're in front of the audience, you have a smile on your face." And I was like, "Oh, she got me." and she talked to me quite a bit about it and was very convincing. So I did not want to be a speaker. At that point, had not given any thought to being a life coach. I thought it was, I thought nobody really would want to listen to me. And some of that comes from childhood. And some of it comes maybe from being shy. I was the guy that might quietly say something funny in a crowd, but only a few people would hear it because I was quiet. And then someone else would say it and get a big laugh.
Oh, stealing your jokes. You're the careful guy. The risk taker was getting all the reward.
So it changed my thought. And that began the journey of recognizing that I am really good at supporting others. I can help them see their potential, identify their desires, find the blocks that are keeping them from their goals. All those things are really good for me. One of the favorite things I like to do that I've been doing lately is emceeing people's events. Because that gives me a chance to, I bond with the speaker beforehand. A lot of the time people will just read a card, Amy Winsett, is the
Yeah.
founder of Stages of Faith, blah, blah,
Right.
blah. And I always give that factual information, but I also pair it with, I've known Amy for 2 years and we had this experience together and we did such and such. And I'm just really impressed by this quality that I see in her. And I do that for every speaker I can.
And you have done that for me in actuality a couple of years ago when we, like you said, like we met at an event that your wife, Kelly K. Walker, had put on, and you had done just that. And I was very impressed. And that goes all back to the whole thing of like seeing people, feeling and being in tune. Yeah, it's just kind of the essence of who you are, which is great. No wonder people want you to MC their events, and intuitive life coaching has just come so naturally for you.
It does. It was tough for me to accept the idea that people might want to listen to what I have to say. That was the challenge. But the challenge has never been loving people or knowing how I could give them something useful.
Well, they say that they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And too many people don't know how to show how much they care. They just want to tell us what they know. And so you already have that piece where you show people how much you care. And then we go, what does this guy have to say about me? And I want to hear what else he has to say. Because you show that empathy, that you're very connected. And I always say this too, if you want it, you're meant to have it. If you're meant to have it, those are the things that you'll want. And so that's kind of written inside of our souls, the things that we're meant to become. And you have, whether you wanted it or not, you've been on this path that God has set out for you. First of all, you married Kelly K. Walker, the speaker coach. And not that she was at the time, but we've seen how her career has grown through that. And it has just led you to different stages, even to this stage right here, where we are sharing that. And so these opportunities, and, I've been able to watch these things come up for you again and again over the last couple of years that I've just vicariously been watching. But would you agree with that, Lynn, that there's always something inside of us that's showing us what you kind of do want, and that it never really goes away when we're in tune with that spirit? Have you felt that?
Oh, absolutely. And I have been, I've been the guy that has Jonah a little bit, that's not for me. Hide
from Nineveh. Sure.
But when I have said, okay, no, I will do this. I will speak. I will meet people, because I'm kind of an introvert. Mm-hmm. And it's just paid off in spades. And the more I humble myself and accept and listen to the ideas, the inspiration I get, then I start moving on to the next level. And mm-hmm. None of it is my idea. It wouldn't have been my idea, because I didn't think of myself that way, but it's mm-hmm. just unraveled naturally.
And we're just creatures of comfort. Too often we don't really want to go outside of that comfort, but I feel like that's where all the soul progression happens. That's where faith gets stronger, is by going just a little bit further than where you were before, putting it out there and then seeing what shows up for you sometimes. So, well, I think you're a great speaker, Lynn. I've heard you. I think you're a great MC. I think it is natural. And I think that probably what motivates you underneath it all, and it's a good reminder for all of us, is that we're here to love and serve other people. We know what pain feels like for us. We know that we've been inspired by other people who have shared their stories and have changed us and helped us really heal. And so that's what motivates us, that empathy that we go back to again, that empathy of, what would I hope that somebody would do for me? And then it just continues on that path of faith. And I love that. So, Lynn, you actually have an offer for our guests today. Talk to us a little bit about this offer that you have going on.
Absolutely. So it turns out that the people that end up wanting to work with me are usually entrepreneurs. A lot of the time they're mm-hmm. life coaches. Sometimes they're energy workers. Sometimes they do Gestalt therapy, but they're all kind of have a similarity there. And generally they have small businesses, usually not employees yet, and they know what they want to do, and they've worked with a few customers, but they're not making enough money to replace their income yet, and they're fuzzy on what they want to offer people, what they want to sell people. They know some of the things they can do. They can do a little bit of this and a little of that, but they don't quite have it all figured out. So I have an ebook. It's brand new. It's called Dialing In on Your Offer, and it just helps you has some questions and a process. It talks about pricing to help you figure out if you know what you want to do, but you're not quite sure what you want to offer people. This ebook will help guide you through it.
Right. And after talking with you for this amount of time, and to our listeners, I'm sure they're going, this is the guy you want to get this book from. He's not just, doing something like, well, I heard somebody else say this and here's a book. I'm sure that you spent a lot of time being very intuitive, creating this and tapping into truly what your future readers and clients truly need. Do you feel like that's been a part of this process for you to really get in tune with the specifics of what's needed today?
Oh, absolutely. I was at a workshop when I came up with the idea. We were filming videos, which I think I'm going to start putting up in June. And they said, film your freemium, your offer that you want to give people to serve them. And I was like, ooh, I don't have one yet. And it just came to me. You need to do an ebook on dialing in on your offer because you've been struggling with that and have just worked out how to come up with it. And now that you've figured it out for yourself, you need to offer it to others.
Interesting, isn't it? It's interesting. As soon as an idea comes to us that helps us, it's almost like immediately, Heavenly Father, the universe, God says, now you got to give it back out. Because it doesn't do any good for somebody to stay with somebody and to stay stagnant. There will always there's a flow to life, that it's time to give. You got it. Now you give it. Absolutely. Lynn, thank you so much for being on with us today and sharing with us your different stages of faith and ways in which it has developed. And I'm sure there's many that look forward to reaching out to you as an intuitive life coach and helping them kind of sort some things out. You're obviously very empathic and intuitive and really have a lot of love for people. So we appreciate that. If you would like to be on Stages of Faith, please reach out to us on any one of our platforms. And we would love to have you share your faith journey with each one of us. So please be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
And can I say one last thing?
Oh, sure.
I am loving watching your career journey because you have so many amazing talents, but I feel like it's just been in the last few months that you've really been sharing them and doing new things. And I've worked with you as a client, and it's been amazing. And you've worked with me as a client too. We've done it both ways, and I've just loved working with you, and your gifts are just amazing. So,
well, I appreciate that. And since you added to that, I will kind of add to how I got to Stages of Faith on this page. This is what today is, Thursday, Sunday night. I was thinking about what I knew to be in my journey, and that I know that I need to help a lot of people. And I have helped a lot of people, but I thought, how can I help people in a bigger way and a bigger stage? I've done a lot I'm a massage therapist. I've done a lot with holistic mind, body, spirit work and intuitive work. And I just thought, but how can I reach more in something that I don't have to educate so much behind? I mean, faith is something is a word we all understand, and it's something that we're kind of struggling with. Everybody's kind of struggling a little bit, or has at some point. And I just cleared the slate of whatever I thought was going to be my big thing that I was going to give to everyone, and just clean the slate. And I said, I don't think what I'm doing is working. I need a way that I can reach more people on a broader platform. And I cleared it. And within a minute, it was like the word Stages of Faith came in, and your wife was my speaker coach. And so she has helped me not perfect, but get better at being on stages. And I've spent my life really on stages. And so I was like, stages, but it works both ways. And you can see the little slogan down here. And then I created the slogan that says, faith develops in stages, and on stages we share it. And that is just powerful, because if we're not sharing, we're not helping each other grow. And I have a testimony. I have faith in a lot of different things, and I've been pretty solid in those things my whole life. And I know that the more I share with others, the stronger it gets. And the more others share with me, and we start to see those commonalities, how it just makes it easier. We need ease. We need it to be easier to believe in certain things, and to have that feeling, that empathic feeling you talked so much about tonight, that intuition, and go, are we in tune, and to know what is right. So appreciate you bringing that up, because as a matter of fact, what I'm doing here and how you feel you're inspired about your life coaching and how you got there, same thing. It was about listening to intuition and moving forward with that. So thank you so much, Lynn.
Oh, it's been a pleasure.
Okay. All right. We'll see you guys later. Bye.